Hi, this is Steven at Visual Advantage, and we've recently been getting a lot more phone calls about trials that happened in the fall and what you can expect for your upcoming trials here this year. So to address that, I've created a quick presentation I'm calling Top 5 Trial Surprises to try to help you deal with those a little bit better. The first one here that we have to address is that the fact is that we're very likely to be in trial. So the first trial surprise is that it's probably going to happen. There have been a lot of things that have caused these dockets to get pushed. But if you're set here relatively soon, um, the odds seem to be much more in favor of it happening. So we've been experiencing hybrid trials, or hybrid trials have been happening all across the country via Zoom and WebEx in recent times. And a lot of the docket for February here has been pushed, but if you're in March or April, you're very likely to go. And this is a shameless plug for you reaching out to your technology providers, getting sure that you have equipment and all that lined up, or it's not going to be there. We're not going to be around. The people aren't going to be there. They're not going to be the equipment that you need. In a pinch, you got to make those arrangements here as soon as possible, or they're just not going to be available. This is a trial here in Pueblo, high-profile jury trial. Began here on the 25th, selection did, and so the read through here is that there's just going to be a lot more activity than we could have expected. The county of Yolo in California has fully Zoom jury selection. So they're bringing in equipment, or they're sending out equipment rather, to people who don't have it to facilitate doing a Zoom meeting where they can go ahead and pick a jury for a trial that they'll either hold in person or completely remote. They're doing a lot better job of training people, and so it's becoming a more viable option. So whether it's in person or hybrid, odds are that there's going to be a decent amount of activity here upcoming. Part of the reason that they're doing jury selection remotely is to address number 2 here in our trial surprises, which is the potential occupancy restriction related to social distancing. So this is what a typical courtroom diagram would look like that we'd be trying to build around. And you can see the gallery. There's historically plenty of room to put people in. So you could have as many potential jurors as we wanted in the courtroom at the same time. And this is what it looks like in a in a social distancing environment here, in that most of those people are not going to be able to, or most of the chair space and bench space is not really able to be used. So what that ends up meaning is that we have 17 jurors. We'll have a judge, clerk, and a bailiff. We might have 2 members of counsel for the plaintiff, 2 members of counsel for the defense. And at that point, you've reached your 24, and if you want a plaintiff to be present, or perhaps a client representative from the defense, your court reporter might be the odd man out, or a jury consultant. So you have to be prepared for this and plan accordingly, that because there's so many people in the room during jury selection, spread out all over the place, you may not be able to get everybody in that you want to. So understand that you want to have that hierarchy in mind ahead of time. And if you need to, we might have to pipe the feed out somewhere. And if this is something that needs to be done to facilitate a remote court reporter or something, or a jury consultant, there's extra equipment that needs to be brought in order to do that properly. Otherwise, you won't be able to hear, people won't be able to see what they need to see, and it's just not going to work. Number 3 has to relate to distances. And so, as I showed you before, people are spread out all over the place. They didn't used to be. Typically, in a civil trial here, we'd have 7 people in the box. We'd have our 6 jurors and an alternate, and they'd all be able to be within about 10 feet of the screen that they're looking at. And the screens in the courtrooms are typically not particularly large. The TVs, on average, they're probably around 55 inches. They're starting to get a little bit bigger in some places, but for the most part, they're not particularly big. But they're adequate here for 10 feet away. Fast forward to the COVID environment, and your juror may be 20 feet away, and even further, depending on where the screens have to be situated. So what that looks like in the courtroom here is, if you're trying to stare over there at a 55-inch TV or even a 60 or 65, like this one might be, you're just not, the juror is not going to be able to read anything on that screen from this distance. So we have to be aware that this is a possibility. And the evidence, if they can't read the evidence, you're really wasting your time with a lot of what the effort that's going into the trial. So we're bringing in two screens for the most part now. We're utilizing the court's TV if they have one and putting it on the far side, close to a couple of jurors, and then we're replacing where the TV would have normally been with a large projector so people can see the evidence and hear the case the way you want to put it on. In the case where you do want a TV, we recommend 75 inches or larger. That's what we're going to be bringing in, and a combination of apparatus to make sure that everybody can view is what needs to be done. Fourth trial surprise is potentially related to travel restrictions. Maybe a lot of witnesses or experts are going to be advanced in age and may be reluctant to go to the courtroom. And also you may come in contact, you have contact tracing issues or contact exposure issues that may prevent somebody at the last minute from being able to testify in person. So in order to deal with that, you need to be prepared to pivot to to use either Zoom or WebEx or one of these other platforms in order to accommodate a remote witness. And again, it's not something that just happens there last minute. You need to have the appropriate technology to support it. People need to be able to hear the witness, so you may need extra speakers in the courtroom. And there's a whole host of things that need to be done to prepare the witness to be able to interact with you, maybe use the annotation tools so that they're able to communicate their testimony in the best possible light in the courtroom. Number 5 is pretty simple, but we're used to a lot of paper in this industry, and that was one of the things that we saw disappear, a lot of disappears, that there was no paper passing in the courtroom. So people can still bring copy of their expert reports and things like that, but nothing can really be passed around. So paper is sort of out of favor. That being said, the surprise here is that you may be required to compile exhibit notebooks for every individual juror. And in the last case I was in, there was 3 notebooks for a plaintiff, 3 notebooks for a defense. It ended up being a box of each, and that ended up being 14 boxes that were needing to be prepared for to provide evidence for deliberation. So it was a very big challenge for one side. Not the geography of where this courtroom was made it difficult. Also, but you just need to be aware that you may need to be able to produce a whole bunch of paper, even though all of the evidence is likely to be displayed electronically. So those are our top 5 trial surprises. Please get in touch with us sooner rather than later. I'm very happy to answer any questions that you have, even if if the particular case doesn't have the budget for bringing us in to do the presentation and all the equipment and such. I'm happy to answer questions and help you address some of the issues that we've just covered here. So again, I hope you guys have a great day. This will be the first of hopefully several videos that we'll be putting together to help with some of these topics related to the court's reopening. And we look forward to seeing you again sometime soon. All right, take care.